Well, hello again, everyone, and welcome to our latest webcast that we're bringing you from Travel Weekly as part of our Roadmap to Recovery series. And I'm delighted to be joined today by Alan Cross from Jet2 Holidays, by Nick Hughes from Gold Medal Travel, part of Donata, and by Amanda Matthews from Designer Travel. So welcome all of you. I'm smiling today because we are going to be commenting on the announcement that Grant Shapps and the government made on Friday regarding the latest updates to international travel rules. And by all accounts, it seems to be quite positive. Someone actually said one of the biggest breakthroughs our industry has had in 18 months. Would you agree, Alan?
Totally. We've seen the announcements and the build up to the announcements with some positive releases. The passenger numbers before the announcement stayed stable this week, which was unusual just before announcement, but since then they've exploded. And it's not only that we've got Turkey off the red list, because that's been a catalyst for all destinations. And in fact, in the past 3 days, Turkey for summer 21 and winter 21-22 has been our second top seller, slightly behind the Canaries, but there's not much in it. So yeah, mass market destination, it's back there. 250% up we've seen, but it's been that spur to generate all seasons and all destinations. So very good news for that. The changing or proposed changes of PCR requirements, depending what part of the country you're in, fantastic news again. And for once, the government seems to be listening, and it's a step in the right direction, but it's one that we can't let go back the way now.
Okay, all right. Well, you've raised quite a few points. We'll come on to the sort of regional variations and the testing in a second. Just before we move on from Turkey, just remind us what you've done. I think you've got flights restarting to Dalaman and Antalya this week. Is that right?
Yeah, 23rd of September, Dalaman and Antalya, and the Antalya ones will run right through the winter. So as I say, we're seeing good bookings burst back in again for all seasons. And the thing is, summer 21, it's essential to get passengers travelling now, again building that confidence.
Okay, all right. Let's just bring in Nick then to talk a bit more about long haul, because there were some key destinations taken off the red list there. Maldives and Sri Lanka, I guess, primarily for you. What does that mean for you as a long haul operator, Nick?
Well, I suppose, Lucy, when we look at the removal of the UAE from red and over to amber 3 weeks ago, it's been a kind of steady incline since then. From our side, of course, it's made a huge impact with regards to departures. So if we go back maybe over the last kind of 4 to 8 weeks, we've seen departures for traveling in 2021 as low as 12 to 15%, with the rest predominantly traveling in 22. And yet last week, since the announcement, 37% of all of our bookings were actually departing in 2021. And for our luxury side of the business, it was actually 43%. So that's completely different from what we've seen over the last kind of 2, 3, 4 months. And again, for those destinations, of course, naturally, that meant that the Indian Ocean, UAE overall continued to perform really, really strongly for us. So it's really positive. And I think that we've had so many false dawns, haven't we? We've been announcements that we've taken, we think 1 or 2 steps forward, but then a day or a week later, there's another announcement where we take 2 or 3 steps backwards. So for us, I truly feel that this is a step in the right direction. But as Alan's alluded to, we just need this now to kind of build and get more consistency, really.
Yeah, and of course, for your business, you've still got Australasia and the US and there's still a lot of the world that you feature that isn't open, but you still see this as a significant sort of, I guess, building block towards opening the whole world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, normally we would take more calls for West, so obviously predominantly the Caribbean and the US. Last week, East obviously proved the greater number of calls. So again, that's kind of bucked the trend for us a little bit, but that's a reflection of last week's news. But absolutely, we're still waiting to see what's going to happen in Australia. Again, Asia was up last week. Again, not all destinations are open there, but of course, we're really hoping that this Boris Johnson and Joe Biden meeting will open up the USA. We're hoping from November latest, really.
Okay, all right, good stuff. Well, let's find out what Amanda's customers have been, how they've been reacting. Amanda, what's been the sort of situation over the weekend for you?
Yeah, so I mean, we had normally, when it's a traffic light week, we see a real dodgy sales week. You know, some days are okay and some days not. And when the announcement happens, we kind of explode for those few days with the destination changes. Whereas this last week has been a completely different, because the positive news started to be dripped out earlier in the week. The week was really strong. In fact, it was the strongest week we've had for months and months and months. You know, we outperformed 2019, and obviously we never compare ourselves to against last year. But the trends for us didn't change. They were late bookings and next year, as in very late, or July and August next year. So interestingly, top destinations, like Alan said, were Turkey. I didn't expect Turkey to bounce back so quickly. And we've got a real mix of Turkey for October half term and for next summer. Quite a few Maldives bookings. But for us, it was more about the bookings we've already made for the Maldives, for October half term, for Christmas. We had so many clients kind of, you know, texting us with emojis with like the big hands, yay, because, you know, holidays are on. And so in some ways for us as a luxury agent particularly, it's kind of answered a lot of our, thankfully we can get our big bookings away for October and Christmas. And so, you know, it was a really positive week. Having said that, the only thing that we had that was a negative from clients, which were particularly long haul clients, not short haul clients, is our concern now is it goes straight to red, because there's nothing in between. Yeah. So that is, you know, we need some clarity over, you know, is it going to be reviewed every 3 weeks? Is it going to be reviewed ongoing? Because I think until we understand the absolute structure of those decisions, we're not quite out of the woods yet, I don't think.
Okay, so yes, how often it's going to be reviewed and what time they're going to give, or a notice period for moving a destination over.
Especially where it's further away, where it's not, you know, you're not going to be readily able to get a flight back from, you know, somewhere a bit closer to home.
So there's still an element of caution out there, you'd say, with your clients. And just before we move on then, with regards to October half term, you mentioned October half term and Christmas, and these people, you know, some people were saying to me the other day that, you know, October half term is now really tight, you know, it's just hard to get certain things, and I imagine Friday's announcement will have made that even tighter.
Well, yes and no. So that if people wanted to go to the Canaries and places like that, or Greece, some of the southern Greek islands, the availability was getting very tight. But of course now Friday's announcement opened up Turkey, it's opened up, you know, the Maldives, and it's probably given people confidence short term to go a bit further away. Whether, you know, that carries on if things change over the next few weeks with the red list, I'm not quite sure, but it definitely, I mean, lots of our October half terms were Turkey.
Okay, all right. And Alan, I know we've spoken before and how sad it was for Turkey because, you know, a lot of the hotels weren't opening because they didn't have the custom, but are they all now opening, hoping they'll get this longer season? And you mentioned into winter as well, or what's happening on the ground in Turkey?
Well, what we've seen, not just in Turkey, but in many places, is that other countries, particularly in Europe, have been opening up. So they have been able to stay open, and that's the great thing. There's no point flying an aircraft to a destination when you've got no beds for them to stay in. So in a way, the other countries opening up, German market, Scandinavian market, etc., has helped us keep this going through this lull. And the hoteliers that we're speaking to are just ready and waiting with their arms open to welcome the UK market as well.
Yeah, and then the other point about the announcement on Friday, obviously it was around the actual destinations, but it was also around the testing, which you know mentioned earlier, Alan.
Yes.
So from October the 4th, that pre-departure test before you come home, that's going to switch now to a lateral flow test. Is that, or sorry, that's going to be scrapped, sorry. Yes. And then at the end of October, sorry, we're going to hopefully see the end of the PCR on day 2 and change to a lateral flow. So how important is that for customers?
I think everything in combination, opening up more countries, opening up the PCR requirements, everything is good. And there has been people out there that are desperate to go away that would pay the money for that, go through the relative inconvenience to do that. So anything is fantastic and positive. What we'd like to see, though, is that the 4 governments, the Scottish, the Northern Irish, the Welsh, and the English, all get their act together and do the same thing. And that's what we're clambering for at this moment in time. Otherwise, it gets very confusing and also makes a farce of it. Because if they really think that somebody in the borders of Scotland is not going to end up down to Newcastle for a flight, they're kidding themselves.
Yeah, and when you say that's what you're clamoring for, what are you lobbying, or what are you doing around that?
Yeah, there's all through the pandemic, there's been conversations going on with jet through holidays at senior level, at government bodies in this country and abroad as well. So anything to alleviate and get a level pegging is what we need with that one. That the governments are not, how would you put it, playing games with each other.
Yeah,
in order to get one-upmanship.
Is it your expectation it will align? Sturgeon is normally just a little bit behind what Johnson does, but she does get there eventually. So it's not a case that you don't think it'll happen at all.
We're very optimistic that by the end of October, that the 4 national governments will be in line.
Okay, but that won't be in time for half term.
Won't be in time, maybe for half term, but you never know. I mean, what's the date? What's the time scale? What's the deadline? In the past 18 months, things can change very, very quickly when it's for the right reasons.
Yeah, okay. And Nick, the testing issue, is that important for people when they're already spending quite a lot of money on a longer full holiday, which is presumably a higher price point? Does the expense of testing, does that sort of put people off still? Do you think this will make quite a difference, that the rules are going to be relaxed on testing?
Yeah, it's just removing one of those obstacles. Amanda's already alluded to in terms of what's going to happen in terms of when are they going to announce, when they're going to make changes to red destinations. So that obstacle still remains, but the PCR testing for sure has to impact a lot of customers, Lucy. I mean, I got back from holiday on Friday. Over the 3 tests that we took, myself and my wife, we paid over £420 for 3 sets of tests. So, and by hook or by crook, I was going to go on holiday after the last 18 months or so. But not everybody would want to do that. And I think, again, I saw on social media, I think it was early doors this morning, an agent saying, where can I go where I don't have to take a test because my partner doesn't want to pay the testing fees. And that's from a travel agent saying that. So I think it will take away a lot of that pain, a lot of that inconvenience. All of the obstacles still aren't gone, but as I said before, it's a step in the right direction for sure, and takes away a little bit of that uncertainty of, if I have been double vaxxed and I still get tested positive, what's going to happen? How am I going to get back from that destination if it happens in resort? So hopefully people will be a lot happier now come the 4th of October.
Okay. And Amanda, obviously the relaxation of this testing rules is for double vaccinated passengers, and there's still a proportion of the population that aren't vaccinated, perhaps in the sort of younger age group. Is that an issue for you as a travel agent, because you've obviously got some now that it will apply for and some that it won't? How does that sort of work, or does it really come up at all?
I mean, I think we've been kind of using, having to deal with this kind of complex situation all through the summer. And we've been very proactive in getting as many people out as possible. So I think for us, we're used to asking people their vaccination status and explaining the kind of rules regarding that. I suppose the opportunity for non-vaccinated people to go to green list countries without having to isolate has now been taken away. So I think now it's a straightforward, if you're not vaccinated and you want to go on holiday at the moment, you've got to accept that you've got to isolate for 10 days at home or do your test and release at day 5. So you've either got to accept that you're going to pay the prices and go on and be tested, or maybe change your mind about being vaccinated or decide not to go. So I think because we don't make the rules, we're not getting flack from customers for that. The hardest thing is where you've got families where somebody's just turned, say, for example, where they've just turned 18 and they haven't had the time to get vaccinated. And that feels a little bit unfair. But now, obviously, you're allowed to go when you're 16 and 17. So that obstacle should kind of sort itself out. I think that the biggest obstacle we've had through the summer is people were very nervous about doing the tests on holiday. We could tell them where to buy their day 2, their day 5, their day 8, their pre-departure. And obviously we had some testing companies where they could take them overseas. But, you spent for the last 3 days of your holiday before you did the test to get home, nervous about, I don't want to stay and be taken to a hotel in wherever you were. So I think the fact now clients can go on holiday if they've been double jabbed with their families for October half term and not have to worry for 1 minute about having to do another test to come home. To me, that is the biggest plus point of all these changes. Yeah. When people are home, the day 2 is a cost saving, and it might mean that a lateral flow is 20 quid instead of £40 for a PCR. But to be fair, the biggest obstacle has been testing overseas and the fear of, you know, of not getting home. Yeah. But having said that, we've all got to understand that the biggest challenge is still the entry requirements into so many destinations. They're different across the board. You know, they test on arrival, and that's still a real, especially a lot of the long haul destinations, that's still a real worry for clients, and especially high-end clients spending hundreds of thousands of pounds or 50 grand or whatever. They do not want to get to Barbados and find that they, between doing the test here and getting there, they're positive, and moving from Sandy Lane to some hotel that's government controlled. Those will not go over Christmas if some of the entry requirements aren't changed. So there's still lots of challenges out there for us all.
And are those entry requirements changing? Obviously not quick enough, but are you seeing them starting to be relaxed in the same way, you know, the UK is changing its rules? Do you expect them to be relaxed as we go towards Christmas?
At the moment, no. I mean, we've not seen any relaxation of any of the key kind of winter destinations. Yeah. I'm talking long haul, not Europe. Yeah. And unless, you know, some of those are changed, you know, we will just end up having to move those big bookings yet again from, you know, last year to this.
And so you would either if it was a new booking, you'd book somewhere else where it was an easier entry requirement, or you would move the bookings because you'd want your customers to not have that, or they want the peace of mind.
I mean, even if some of the hotels agree that you can isolate in resort, that would solve some of the problems. Yeah. But you know, you can't have a Sandy Lane client going to Barbados and having to stay in a 3-star government-owned hotel.
Yeah. And can we put pressure on for that to happen, or is it just a case of waiting for those governments?
There's pressure all over and it's not just, I've just used that as an example, but there's lots of other examples where, you know, when, especially in the high end, that you know, work needs to be done on taking the fear out of getting, you know, tested as soon as you get abroad. Cyprus is doing the same thing. So it's, you know, we just need to see how that all works out, and hopefully that gets relaxed for double vax people as well. And then if that happens, wow, we're in for an absolutely amazing time. But if it doesn't, we're still faced as a travel agent with all these ever-changing challenges and requirements, but are different and unique for every destination.
Yeah, absolutely. Alan, would you agree with what Amanda said? You know, with that the pre-departure test being the one that was the real off-putter in case people got stuck in resort and couldn't get home? Was that the obstacle, the main one, rather than the cost of the PCR on you know, take day 2, day 5 tests?
Yeah, we recorded a lot of people when they contacted our call centre, both agents and direct customers, and it was a big concern what happens in resort. And what we've got that is excellent is the red team in resort that would help people if the appointment they'd booked went wrong, if there was something in resort, to make sure it went as smoothly as possible. I do though think that one of the biggest obstacles can be, and I hate to say it, travel agents, because we see it in the mix of business that for summer 21 and winter 21-22, they were very slow at having the confidence to book their customers because they've seen it in many instances as hassle. So they have to get this out their mind. The customer confidence is better now than it's ever been during the pandemic. And Amanda demonstrates she knows everything that's happening and how to get a customer and how to guide a customer through that, rather than make it difficult, make it easy for them. Not only to go through any requirements or any hoops that any government wants them to do, but also to be accessible. And this is the time, I think, also that we see that home workers have benefited hugely because it's business as normal. But many travel agents in the first year of the pandemic were saying to customers, here's my mobile number, here's my Facebook, here's my email address, contact me any time of the day and night. Now what they're saying is, you know, I'm open between 10 and 4, I close on a Wednesday, a close on a Sunday, a close early on a Saturday, we've got to make sure that we get the pent-up demand that's out there through the travel agents. The customers want to book through them, but they've got to be accessible. So again,
when you say this, Alan, when you're saying they were a bit of a blocker and they've got to get it out of their mind, you mean they've now got to not be nervous to book, and because there are some who just hibernated and said it's too much hassle, I don't want to do any more rebookings and cancellations and deal with it. Or you're saying you need them now to do what Amanda's doing and keep pushing and keep getting people away. And
I mean, this is survival. If they don't get cash flow through their business now, it doesn't matter how many bookings they've got for summer 22 or summer 23. They need business now. Businesses out there, they've got to take an opportunity to actually get that. And, you know, that's what I say about the businesses such as Amanda's. The home workers, it's business as usual, because we get 20% of our Jet2 holiday business after 5, 6 o'clock at night. And it's home workers that are doing that business.
Alan, what proportion of the agents that you work with would you say need to now get the right mindset and get booking and stop sort of whatever you were saying, like not selling?
I think you're still looking at a good 50% of them. The owners have realised, and in the past 3-4 weeks, we're seeing a bigger mix for summer 21 of trade, but it really did drop quite significantly for a few months there. The trade business on the late booking market, and yet the demand was there. We've seen it, but you've got to accommodate when the customers want to book, not now that you're open, that they've got to accommodate around your opening times. I mean, out of curiosity, on Friday night there, between 6 o'clock at night and midnight, there was over 2,500 bookings come in after close of business. Again, there was a smaller number of those through the home workers, but a lot of the retail missed that. In fact, there was 85 bookings come in between midnight and 1 o'clock in the morning. So again, you've got to accommodate and give the customer the ability to book whenever.
Very interesting. Nick, would you agree with that? Have you seen some of that some agents have been reticent to you know, book and have to deal with all the cancellations, and then they now need to really get on top of it?
Definitely. I think there's been that hesitancy, hasn't there, due to everything that's been in place and the lack of confidence from, you know, not just customers, but even from us, the so-called professionals that work in the industry, Lucy, that, you know, with the ever-changing information that we've been given, with different operators, different airlines, different destinations, all having a number of different rules and regulations, that, you know, there definitely has been some agents that I know that said they weren't going to take bookings for 2021, only from 22 onwards, because they felt that was more of a safer way to kind of move forward. I think what I would say slightly differently, which, you know, our business, similar to Alan's in terms of our partnerships with our home working agents, has absolutely been fairly consistent and the highest performing throughout the whole pandemic. But I think it is slightly different for the retail guys, because, you know, they're still making use of furlough in some cases. There's an element of some of them who would have maybe potentially had, you know, 5 or 6 people working in an agency. Now they might only be working on 1 and 2. So again, because of the different business model, it therefore makes them make a slightly different decision daily or weekly within their own respective businesses. But the news of last week has to be, again, really positive, and that will help them from that business model perspective, from a high street retail agent, get back on the road to where they need to go to. Because again, there have been some absolute winners over the last 18 months. You know, I've spoke to different agents who have been operating either from home or from an online perspective that have absolutely picked up some ex-retail customers because they just haven't been open. So it's about how do they get that confidence to actually come back into that shop or give that shop a call and make sure that they can guarantee that business, and as Alan said, really importantly, for the now, for the short term, not just for next year or even 23, because they need the cash in now. Yeah.
Amanda, listening to what both Alan and Nick have said about agents, and can you understand why some agents have kind of been hesitant and perhaps been nervous to make bookings for 21, and what made you decide to just plough ahead and keep trying to get people away?
So, I mean, first of all, I absolutely understand, because I think it's been a very tough 18 months in that you know, we basically are holding the hands of every client, taking full accountability for that holiday. So if a holiday's £5 and we're making £200 and we mess up and give the wrong information, we could be liable for £5,000. So it's a big decision. And I do understand why some agents have kind of gone, you know, no, enough is enough. I'm taking the summer off. But we didn't, from the very beginning, decided we were just not that travel agent. I feel like I fight for how good travel agents are, how brilliant we are, and how professionals. And I think over the years we have been underestimated about how bloody good a good travel agent can be. And this was our time to shine. This was our time to show what we were really made of. And so from the very beginning, we have gone glass half full all the way. And we've tried to help other travel agents, because I genuinely feel that, you know, we've bolstered our management team from 3 to 5 to help with all the support that our team needed. And so it's cost us money, but we've gained lots of new customers and new home workers. But I feel sorry for travel agents that maybe haven't had any support and are having to plough through this on their own. You know, ours have got a team of people they can ring, and every day we're getting asked the same questions, but there's somebody there to give them reassurance and confidence to make the bookings. And, you know, we've put massive incentive campaigns in to get people to book between now and the end of September, because as Alan said, you know, that money's, nobody can take that money off us. We've got it now, we've earned it, and it's done. So I can see both sides, but for me, I feel so proud of our team that they have shown what a good travel agent is and can be. And all I've got to do now is hope that the customers that have witnessed that, and where we've had 10 phone calls for every single booking, that they will remember that when things do get a bit easier. And I have to say, and a shout out to the tour operators, in particular Jet2, but we have not had any problem we've not been able to solve. And we've had people in resort test positive. We've had people go before they've test positive. We've had, honestly, you name it, we've had it thrown at us. And it hasn't cost us any money. We've worked with our tour operators. We've been honest all the way through. And I have to say, you know, we couldn't have done it without them. If the tour operators hadn't have been as flexible, then we would have struggled. But we've worked together as a team, you know, with Gold Medal, where people have been uneasy of travelling. They've let us put deposits on credit notes, so we've been able to rebook those clients. We've not lost the booking. So we've been as creative as we can with everyone. And I am just so proud of the team and how they've managed their way through it. But at the same time, I absolutely sympathise with agents who have taken a different strategy, because they wouldn't maybe have had the support and confidence from a head office, or if they were an independent, they've not got what we had on offer for our team. So,
but do you think now, Man, that what Alan's saying now with this new, or both of guys are saying with this new announcement that gives us a bit more positivity and a bit more confidence, do you think, you know, would your advice to other agents that have perhaps been reticent, would you say now is the time to try and get something from the end of the summer and into the half term?
I mean, they you know, yeah, absolutely. If they haven't already done it, which they should have already done maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, they literally need to get out of hibernation now, you know, do the research, accept that it's going to take an extra 15, even an hour for every booking before it goes, to do all your tests and checks. But absolutely, if they aren't going to come out now, then in some ways, you know, they're going to leave it and it'll be too late.
Yeah, I mean, the world has changed. Alan, Steve said in the conference last week that your average booking or call now, is gone from 7 minutes to 14 minutes, so doubled in time, because you kind of accept it's going to take longer to, like Amanda's saying, it's going to be longer, more involved, isn't it, to make a booking nowadays?
Yeah, very much so. And it's one of those things, there's no point in moaning about it. This is where we are. So you've got to just crack on with it and work with the cards you're dealt at the end of the day. I mean, the support side that we've seen it, that many agents have been easily contactable from a supplier's perspective. And that's fantastic also, where other ones have shut down and just put their head in the sand. It's time to get it out the sand and sell, because the opportunity is there, and if you don't do it now, the future won't look good for you. As I say.
Just quickly, Nick, because I know you mentioned you'd just been away yourself, and I know you said, of course, you had sort of apprehensions around it, but you said actually it was very normal. And I guess the more we hear these stories of people going on holiday or agents going on trips and being able to pass that on, or you guys yourselves, that's all going to help, isn't it? Sort of generate more confidence.
Yeah, I think so. I think you almost feel like a personal responsibility, Lucy, don't you, to actually go and breathe what you're telling people to go out and do. So very quickly, I suppose the airport experience in Heathrow was like normal, really, yet a bit more paperwork. They checked the PCR tests. Coming back from the resort, the flight back into Heathrow, I think we went through 5 different checks with passport and PCR tests. So again, just takes a little bit longer to go through, but as it stood, really simple, really straightforward. And even the PCR testing in the hotel to return, within 72 hours of returning home, it was really quick. The appointment was booked by reception. The doctor came to your own room. So with our little boy, we didn't have to take him anywhere or make him travel. Very, very quick test for both myself and the wife. And then we had the actual results within 12 hours. So again, it didn't really hinder our experience. It maybe lengthened it, but only by a few minutes in certain areas. And again, I think for me, in some areas, of course, from the 4th of October, and Alan rightly says, we need Nicola Sturgeon to kind of follow suit, but, let's get the UK traveling again to those green destinations now, because, that PCR testing, even though from my experience last week was fairly straightforward, but it's another obstacle that's taken away. And again, come back to the point about the demand, we know categorically that all data points to the fact that people want to go away, and we still need that October half term, I think, for most destinations for people to get away. But we have to be open as operators and as agents side by side to make sure that when that demand is there, that we both make the most of that opportunity. And, as Amanda's alluded to, Design and Travel have been very proactive as a business over the last 18 months and haven't really kind of relented in their approach. And there's been other businesses similar. But again, it's just making sure those that maybe have taken that side step to hibernate a little bit, or made use of furloughs, so they haven't had the full scale of their kind of team there, that they do look at it now, because we don't want them to miss out, and we don't want them then to go and find other ways of booking, because they might lose that customer. But with the cash that's, still not around there to anywhere near kind of pre-COVID levels, it's a really fine balancing, isn't it, really?
Yeah, we get that. All right, I'm conscious of time. Just really wanted to just quickly ask you about Cruise, Nick. You've got your Cruise Plus program, and that's still tricky, isn't it? Like, if you might some destinations like Caribbean cruising, where you can obviously go to some islands, but then some you can't get into and things. And so, what's happening with that side of your business? And I was going to ask about it, because I know you sell a bit of cruise as well. Is that still very tricky?
Yeah, I think obviously we have seen for some weeks, obviously from a Cruise Plus point of view, that has actually increased. And we, for example, last week we were +4 week on week, so there's been a slight difference in performance even on prior week. Again, it's working in partnership with the cruise to make sure that all of their rules and regulations are adhered to. But again, the eagerness, I have absolute, with the fullest confidence that Cruise will bounce back bigger and better than ever. And there's been a lot of activity, hasn't there, in recent weeks with regards to agent events. And I know that a few of our team are on Silversea as we currently speak. So it's just making sure that we're in constant contact with those cruise partners, but also on Gold Medal, we do have a little tool that actually helps agents put in their kind of arrival destination, that they can check what the actual current rules and regulations are to allay any fears and give them the right up-to-date information as well. So it's just making sure that we're kind of abreast of everything that we operate, really.
Yeah, and Amanda, you sell a fair bit of cruise, don't you? So are you confident about selling that going forward, or is it still very complicated depending on some of these ships and where that, if you're joining a ship that's perhaps going somewhere that Brits aren't allowed to get into? Or
I think our cruise business has been very much based on the staycation for the summer. And what we're finding for other destinations is people are booking, and they are booking in, big numbers. but it's not for imminent departures. It's for 2022, 23, and even some 24 departures. So to be fair, have we had loads that have had so, you know, 5 destinations no in the Caribbean? We just haven't had those bookings to have to worry about so far. And I think people who are booking further afield, like us all, are just hoping that as we go on through this, just going to keep getting easier and easier.
Okay. Fingers crossed. Okay. Well, listen, that's probably about time. Fascinating to talk to you. And whoever's dog was joining us, that was good. That your
It's always me, isn't it? Dogs, kids, honestly, it's always something. Sorry.
No, I'm only joking. It's normally when your doorbell goes and there's an Amazon delivery, and then Shadow goes for it, doesn't he? So all right. Well, listen, really great to speak to you on something a lot more positive for once. And as Alan, you set up that cry there. Get booking agents. Try and capitalize on this opportunity, because there certainly is one available. So thank you all so much for joining me. So Alan from Jet2 Holidays, to Nick from Gold Medal, and to Amanda from Designer Travel. Thank you so much.